Yashasvi, over to you.
Thank you, Joy. Great. This brings us, we are almost 7 hours into the marathon, and I'm sure we have a lot of more sessions we look forward to. I hope all of you get your coffees in place for the last leg of the marathon, which begins now. To begin with this edition, we'll invite Mr. Autif Syed, who's a South Asia lead for Green Buildings, International Finance Corporation. Autif leads IFC's Green Building Program in South Asia, which aims to mainstream resource-efficient buildings through targeted investments, setting market standards, and government policies. In addition to leading the EDGE Green Building Certification Program, which is the fastest growing green building certification in the world and India as well, Autif has also supported mandatory green building codes for 7 national and local governments. He's also helped facilitate green building code compliance for over 80 million square million of built-up space. He leads the development and implementation of IFC's green building course that has been delivered to students in across 25 universities globally. To welcome Autif, we look forward to hearing from you regarding building green, the need, certification, and opportunity for financial and allied benefits. And just before you start, I'd like to apologize on behalf of CREDAI for the mess up in the timing. We wrongly sent the link to you for 6 p.m. It was actually for 5 p.m. My apologies for that.
No issues, Yashasvi. Thanks for the introduction. And really glad to be here to be part of this marathon, even though we are doing a short sprint in the whole marathon. We're not part of the full marathon, but glad to be joining this very interesting event. So should I start presenting?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we have this is a huge topic, so we're just going to scratch the surface today, but I hope this would generate enough interest amongst the participants, amongst your audience here today to start actively exploring this if you're not already doing it, because this is the future, and the future is already here now. We're talking about green building finance and green building certification that kind of facilitates that green building finance. And one of the ways that we figured out, which has been proven to be a success globally as well as in India, is through EDGE certification that we have developed and launched in India and globally as well. So I'll quickly cover a few topics, but if you have any questions, please do raise and try to cover those as well. So we, those of you who are not familiar with IFC, we are part of the World Bank Group, what is commonly known as the World Bank. It actually comprises of 5 different departments, and our department is called the International Finance Corporation, which primarily deals with the private sector. And within all the areas of development, we've noticed a huge challenge that has been kind of building up over the last couple of decades and has especially become very important now, which is climate change. Climate change is already impacting economies. It is impacting the way we build, the way we insure buildings, the way we finance buildings, the way we live in buildings. And to tackle that and kind of reduce the negative impact that climate change could have on the building sector, on the construction sector, we've come up with a green building program a few years ago, almost a decade ago, which comprises of these 4 initiatives. We invest directly with building developers who are building green, and I'll talk briefly about what kind of investments and what kind of developers do we look at, and what do we consider as green? What is the criteria? So we do that directly with some developers, with some corporations. We've already invested close to $1 billion in India on green buildings. Plus, we facilitate investments from other global investors as well. That's direct investment, which is this orange colored box. But we also invest through local financial institutions. So, for example, if a builder is going to, let's say, HDFC, to get a green construction loan, we have provided a certain pool of money to the bank or the local financial institution to on lend to specifically to green projects. And this lending is done both for construction finance as well as for the mortgage finance. So if somebody is going to purchase a house in a residential development that is certified green, this pool of money could be used for that as well. So I'll give some examples of that as well, what kind of investments we've done and is already available in India. And a lot more hopefully is coming soon. Then, as was mentioned earlier by Yashasvi, we have worked on policies, uh, including several green building codes in other countries. Not so much in India because India already had a energy efficiency code, ECBC code, but we do work with certain state and national government as and when needed to kind of mainstream or facilitate the development of green buildings. So, for example, we worked with the Pune Municipal Corporation, we worked with Gujarat State and a few others on incentive policies on how do we kind of reward the developers and owners who build green. The blue section of the quadrant here is the standard that we have developed, EDGE certification, and I'll going to focus a lot on this because one of the challenges we realized in the market, not just in India, but globally amongst all emerging markets, all developing countries, is that the standard for considering green, for calling a project green, was usually an imported standard. This was something that was developed in US or Europe, and we were just taking that standard and applying it to our buildings as well. Although we know for sure that these buildings that we are developing here in India are quite different. The weather is different. The starting point is different. What is the market maturity at? The 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 affordability is very different, and therefore we realize that this has to be a custom solution. So we've developed that, and I'll talk more about what kind of customization, what kind of localization is available to make this a very local standard, yet available globally and recognized globally. And also it is a very quantifiable standard, which again was a problem, especially if you look at from the investor's perspective, because they want to really know in numbers what does it mean for this building to be green, how much climate impact does it going to reduce, how much energy consumption is it going to reduce, how much water consumption is it going to reduce. That information was not very clearly available for most projects. So we've overcome that with a very simple solution that is again replicable globally. So just to set the context here, we are sitting in a country that's about to become the most populated country in the world. According to some estimates, it might happen in the next few months. Uh, Again, we don't know when that exactly would happen, but the fact that we know is that there is a huge demand for buildings, especially for housing. Although PMAY has met some of that demand, but there is still a huge gap between supply and demand that has to be met in the next few years if we are to compete globally as a developed economy. And the other interesting opportunity here is that buildings are one of the biggest contributors of greenhouse gas emissions in the way the materials are sourced, the construction materials, where they're coming from, uh, and also in the way the buildings are operated. So they are contributing to anywhere between 20 to 30% of the GHG emissions in our country. On the positive side, though, buildings also offer one of the most cost-efficient ways of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So, as compared to, let's say, renewable energy, to solar power, or one of the other technologies like carbon sequestration, where you extract carbon from the atmosphere and pump it into the ocean or into the ground or somewhere. Compared to all of those technologies, designing more efficient buildings is highly optimal. I mean, this is because once you design the building, it's going to stand there and operate efficiently for many decades, and you reap the benefits throughout. And the cost of designing green buildings has drastically gone down And now with the right and available information, it can go down even further. And we've got some great examples where the cost of green building, green certified building, has been neutral, has been zero. The additional cost has been zero. So there are a lot of opportunities here. And the interesting fact is the government is really pushing hard on it. The investors are pushing hard on it. Uh, and the regulations that are coming up in are going to mandate it to a certain extent. And the pioneers who start acting now will be able to reap the benefits. They will not have to go in for expensive retrofits or kind of face a devaluation of their portfolio once those regulations kick in, which are already in the near horizon. So let's talk about what really is a green building. There are multiple definitions around, but we realize that this has to be something that's easily understood by everyone, all stakeholders, whether it's a developer, the architect, the owner, the engineer, the contractor, the investor. Everyone should be able to very clearly figure out what what do we mean by a green building? What is the impact we're creating? So the definition we came up with is a 20% better performance than the local baseline. And when I say 20%, it comprises of these three elements: a 20% reduction in the energy consumption, a 20% reduction in the water consumption, and a 20% reduction in the embodied energy of the construction materials. What that really means is the manufacturing energy of the construction materials. And these are not tradable uh, points or tradable savings percentages. You have to have all three at least in all category. And having worked on hundreds of projects, I can say for sure this is not a very difficult task. And this is the minimum standard. In fact, a lot of corporations, a lot of investors have gone beyond the minimum standards and they're looking at even higher standards. The other question that may arise is what is this compared against? What do we mean by a 20% reduction? How do we figure that out? So there are two elements to the answer here. Firstly, the baseline, the starting point is our local baseline. And that is an extremely important point because we are not comparing your building against a standard from the US or Europe or Australia or somewhere else. You're saying how typically buildings are being built in your city, the city you're building in, of your building type. If your building is at least 20% better than those peers of yours, then we call it a green building. The other part of this answer is that to try to figure this out, you don't necessarily need to go into very complex calculations. We've simplified that through a simple online software. And the software is completely free of charge. It's available at edgebuildings.com. I will show to you later some screenshots from that. But it has simplified the whole task of figuring out how do we get to this 20%? What are the optimum measures? What is the cost of getting to this 20% reduction? All that is simplified, and within a matter of hour or two, if your architect, your engineer could feed in the information about your project into the software and figure out the right mix of technical measures that would help you reach this standard. So that is like the quantified performance criteria. The other important criteria is that it should be verified by an independent third party. From an investor's point of view, this is also very important because there is unfortunately a lot of greenwashing still happening in the market, and investors are very wary of that. They don't want to invest in projects where they're not completely sure of the performance. So this has to be checked by an independent third party. So we put in a system with Edge where this is checked twice by independent third party. So there is a third party auditor, and finally there is a third party certifier as well. And these are very credible, internationally accepted certifying agencies that we've tied up with to build up that market trust. And of course, our own brand, the World Bank Group brand, is very well trusted. So that also brings a certain level of comfort and value to the investors. And the investors are also looking at quantified impact reporting. How much carbon are you actually reducing? How much kilowatt of energy are you actually saving? How many liters of water is your project really saving? They want to know those numbers. And these numbers, interestingly, are now being asked by the RBI as well as part of the ESG reporting. So now right now the requirement is only for the top 1,000 companies, listed companies, but it is gradually going to increase, and more companies would be required to report on the impact on climate uh, for their project. So the process is simple. Firstly, you go to the software, edgebuildings.com. And as I said, it's a free software. Don't need to pay anything. Just log into the software. You need to register once, enter your project. In a couple of hours, you figure out what is the optimum mix of measures. If your design is not finalized, you can use this as a design guidance tool to evaluate multiple options. And once you meet the 20% standard, 20% energy, 20% water, 20% material, you now are eligible to be certified. So you upload all the documents in the software itself, and an independent auditor is assigned who evaluates it, and the final project certificate is issued. The certificate it can be issued in the pre-construction stage as well as post-construction stage. The pre-construction certificate, which we call a preliminary certificate, is a temporary certificate that is only valid till the project is completed, construction is completed. After construction completion, the auditor walks through the project and then the final certificate is issued. And we've done it in two stages because we realize the the finance has to be accessed before the construction. So that means after the drawings have been evaluated, you can use that preliminary certificate to go to the investor and try to get that finance, the green finance that we're talking about. And also for marketing purposes, that's when you need to market your project before you start constructing or while it's being constructed. So you can use that preliminary certificate for marketing as well, but with the condition that you will get the final certificate after the project is constructed. So the software it helps you in evaluate multiple options. So you can see in the screen, I'll show you more screenshots if you have time later. It compares your building, this bar on the right, versus the theoretical baseline for your building in that city, and it gives you multiple options. You can pick and choose the options, and as you do that in real time, it tells you what is the impact in energy saving, water saving, material saving, what is the additional capital cost required to get there, what is the operational cost saving, the monthly electricity water bills saving that you get, and what is the payback, how quickly can you recover this entire additional investment that you're making to make this building green. So, and all that is fairly simplified, so you don't necessarily need a highly trained person. Somebody who has just a little bit of understanding of this, basic understanding, can start using the software. And we do provide that through our tutorials. We have user manuals, we have videos and all that can help you get started with the assessment very quickly. So the certificate looks like this. As you can see, there are no silver, gold, platinum levels here. Instead, we have the savings percentages, which are quite important. And at the back, it also tells you how your project achieved that. So this is also crucial because there are no mandatory requirements. We're not giving you a specific prescription that you do this, and this, and your project will meet the EDGE standard. We are giving the freedom for you and your designers to choose the optimum measures. And as long as it is meeting the minimum 20-20-20 standard, we don't really worry about what kind of measures you've chosen. It is the final performance, the expected performance of the building that really matters. So in terms of putting our money where our talk is, where we are really what we are really promoting, As I said, we've been investing in projects. These are just two examples of some of our recent investments. These are direct investments. So, for example, we invested $30 million in Signature Global, which is an affordable housing player in the NCR region. We also have been investing in with Indospace, who are one of the leaders, if not the biggest developer of logistics warehouses in India. We've invested quite a few quite a big investment with them as well. And there are numerous other examples. These are just two of the examples. The key areas, the key sectors where we are focusing our investments on are affordable housing, logistics, and also we are looking at some key, let's say, hotels or hospitals, which have a strong development impact as well. Being a development institution, we are not like a regular investment who would invest in any project. We have a certain criteria, and if the project is meeting those criteria, then we can invest in them. And those investments can happen in the form of debt, equity, or even like a risk sharing facility, or we can help develop a green bond that would finance that project. And the other route of investments, as I mentioned earlier, is through local financial institutions. So we've recently invested with HDFC twice actually on their investments in green buildings. So again, this fund is only meant for uh, green construction, low cost, affordable housing construction. Uh, we do other kinds of sectors, other building types as well, but this fund was meant only for that. Besides our own investments, we also facilitate investments from other global investors. And the way we've done it is by aligning with all the internationally accepted green finance standards. These, as you can see, these are some of these may be recognizable names. If you are meeting the EDGE standard through its certification, then you are kind of aligned with all of these. And these cover the majority of the major international investments that are happening globally. They are following one or the other of these norms. So that means your chances of getting access to this international climate finance is increased by following an EDGE certification. It does not guarantee it because obviously, like any other investments, they would look at the feasibility of the project and a lot of other details as well before they invest. But this really checks one of the boxes that helps them invest in those climate projects. So the EDGE certification provides you international acclaim, international brand recognition. It provides you guidance in the early design stages so you can figure out how can you build green without really spending more. It helps focus on resource efficiency. So you can actually tell your customer, the eventual occupant of the building, that this is the impact. You're going to save 29% on your energy bill or 47% on your water bill or whatever the number might be. And this is done because we've made it very local. All the data inside is local, the cost data is very local, the weather data is local, the baseline data is very local, yet the branding, the recognition is global. And because it's all done through one software, you do the analysis through the software, you upload the documents through the software, the auditing is done through the software, the whole process is streamlined. And rather than spending 6, 8, 12 months on certification, you can get it in like maybe 3 months or so. So you can cut down the cost as well as the time on getting certification. This kind of certification is available for all building types except heavy industrial and also buildings that are already existing or going through refurbishments. And if you're going through a portfolio certification, then there are some additional benefits you can get, like a portfolio-wide reporting and possibly some extra additional advisory support, especially if you're going for a decarbonization strategy. And I'll talk a little bit about that later in one of the slides. But the idea here is you can do all kinds of building pretty much. So if you compare EDGE with some of the other prevalent systems, it provides you this additional advisory support without necessarily requiring you to hire consultants, specialized consultant. If you want to, you can obviously do that, but you get global recognition, you meet the criteria for green financing, and the cost of doing this is lower. So actually, you can get international recognition at the cost of a local certification. And these are the two certifiers. So you have an option to choose either one of them. GBCI also offers lead certification. SGS Intelli is an international conglomerate, very well known, especially SGS is a very old company that many of you may be familiar with. So you can get quotations from both and choose whichever one you want to finally get certified through. So it's still an IFC certification, a World Bank Group certification, but these are our certification partners that help you guide through the whole process. So in terms of the cost, uh, a typical cost of certification is roughly about 8 lakhs or 10,000 USD. This can vary depending on the size of the project, the stage of construction of the project, whether it's already constructed or not, and the complexity of the project. So that's why we need to get a quotation. Uh, and if you have a large portfolio with prototypical design, then the cost can come down because of the volume discount that you can get. And if you're going for zero carbon certification, then which I'll talk about later, then there is a slight additional cost, which is $500 on top of this. So the three levels of certification, 20-20-20 is the minimum, as I talked about earlier. But if your project achieves 40% energy saving, then you get the Edge Advanced certificate, which is also a minimum requirement, a prerequisite for going for a zero carbon certification. So zero carbon certification is slightly different because then it looks at actual energy consumption in your building and the actual amount of renewable energy, whether it's on site or off site, that you're using to meet all the energy requirements in the building. And if you're doing that, you're cutting down your energy consumption by at least 40%, and you're meeting all the remaining energy required from renewable sources, then you can get a zero carbon certification. And as I said earlier, this is a standard that a lot of corporations are already looking at. And one of them is Tata Realty. Tata Realty just certified their first zero carbon campus. This is the Ramanujan Intellian IT Park in Chennai. Fairly large building, 7 buildings in the campus. And I believe they are the largest campus to be certified with this kind of a zero carbon certification. Uh, and if your portfolio is looking for decarbonization, even if it's not right now, even if it's let's say 10 years from now, we can help develop like a roadmap and kind of develop a phased plan on how you can achieve that zero carbon status by, let's say, 2025 or 2030 or whatever the target may be, and give you very technical guidance on that too. These are some of the recently certified projects in India that we've done. As you can see, they range across different building types, different location, different sizes, and all the projects that get certified are eligible to get their project studies, their case studies published on our website. In fact, if you click on these, you will get a more detailed case study along with information on your company, on the owner, on what kind of technical solutions were used. So these are all available. If you want to look at this, if you go to edgebuildings.com and click on projects, you can search for other projects as well. And we are already developing a huge library of projects that are very local, that are using local solutions, local technologies, and minimal extra cost to get to edge standard or even higher to zero carbon standard. So we've gone beyond that and actually started to look at some segments that are typically not going for green buildings, one of them being self-built housing. So this is one such example. We've recently invested with Awas Housing Finance Company, and also we are working with a few others uh, who are uh, looking at providing a green home loan option for people who are building their own houses, individual houses. So that's something that was not really looked at before, and we've come up with a simplified way of certifying those homes at minimal cost and yet getting them the benefit of the green finance and the recognition that increases the value of their houses. So what we've really seen is that the market has started to give a premium to value these projects, to value green projects. This is a recent JLL study that just came out a couple of months ago, which is showing the premium that your buildings can get, green certified buildings, and this is primarily focused on office buildings, IT or SEZ buildings. The premiums can be substantial in some cases. So there is not just from the MNCs, but even the local clients have started to value this. And of course, as I said earlier, the investors are already doing that. So as a result, we are seeing a huge interest in green certification globally with Edge as well, like other certification systems. We've seen a massive upsurge in projects going for green certification. If you just look at India, the numbers have been quite staggering in the last few years. And this year, we are expecting to go even higher. So I will stop here, maybe because I think I've run out of time. But if there are a couple minutes available, maybe I can quickly show the screenshots of the Edge software, and you're invited to try it out yourself once you go to edgebuildings.com. So Yashasvi, do you think I have time up?
Spare a minute more if you can just show the screenshot of the
Okay,
website.
wonderful, thanks. So this is just a demo of how you actually design a project, a green project. So you go to edgebuildings.com, you click on Edge app, and for the first time, you'll have to register. And once you've registered, then you get to this kind of a screen. And within the screen, there are all these building types available. So you choose your most appropriate building type. And if it's a mixed use, there are multiple types, you can do a mixed use as well. So in this example, we are choosing an industrial building and we are choosing Chennai as the location. We are saying it's a warehouse, and then we start to put in some project details. What is the size, number of floors, the operational hours, etc. And as you see, for every input, there is a default that's already entered. So you can start using the software in very early stages as well, when your project is not even fully designed. So you can use this to guide your design decision making. And as you put in more details, the software extracts the local baseline data and starts to develop your baseline. So in this case, it's saying that for this kind of a warehouse building in Chennai, the typical warehouse building would use roughly about 72 kilowatt hours per square meter per year of energy. This is electricity that's used for lighting, air conditioning, etc. And then it gives you breakup. Where is that energy expected to be used? In this case, it's cooling and lighting. And to minimize or to reduce the this energy consumption, you have this menu of options. So you can choose any number of measures and customize them if you want to. And as you're doing it in real time, it will keep changing the savings percentage. It will keep changing the cost, the capital cost, the incremental cost, and also the operational cost saving. So it will keep telling you what is the payback. So you can choose the combination that really works for you, that really works for your budget, for your aesthetics, for your whatever other design considerations you may have, and just select those. And if you choose passive design measures, usually the cost is lower, but there is also an option of renewable energy on site. Especially if you're going for zero carbon, this is a requirement. You would have to go for renewable of some kind or the other, and you can choose and see the impact on your carbon emissions as well. Similarly, on the water side, it gives you the baseline where the water consumption is expected to happen. And you can start playing around with different efficiency measures, changing the type of toilets, toilet flushes, the irrigation systems, the shower heads, the taps, or even rainwater harvesting or water recycling, STP, water use, etc., etc. So you can choose any combination, and again, as long as you're above 20%, you're eligible to get certified. And on materials, you have to choose what kind of material you're planning to use for each element, for the walls, for the roofs, for the floor slabs, for the windows, etc., etc. And as you can imagine, all of them have different embodied energy. Some use more energy to manufacture, some less. For example, AAC block, aerated concrete block, would have significantly less embodied energy as compared to a regular red brick. So, but just by switching the material, you can sometimes have a huge impact in embodied energy without really having a big impact on the cost. So environmental benefit, but at almost zero cost. So that's something that this screen can offer you. So once you meet all three standards, 20, 20, 20 across all three at least, then you can submit the documentation right from within the software and get it certified. So these are some of the other projects. As you can see, there are different kinds of projects. This is a simple affordable housing project, another affordable housing project. This was even lower cost, low income housing project. And we've also done high income housing projects. So all kinds of projects, including luxury housing, luxury hotels, but also middle income, middle segment projects are also eligible to get certified. So I urge you to explore this. Just go to edgebuildings.com, and or you can even contact us at IFC. So we can guide you and kind of handhold you through your first project if you're interested. So I'll stop there, and thanks. And if there are any questions, I think we can take them too. Back to you, Yashasvi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Autif Syed. It was a very insightful session, and thank you so much for showcasing the Edge Building website. I'm sure a lot of us were not aware about it, so it will help us to plan our future projects better in a more sustainable manner. Thank you very much. I don't think we have any questions.
There is a question, I think, in the question answer box. It's an anonymous question. How do we get connected with IFC to explore funding opportunities? And somebody has asked for the email ID details. Could you just reply on that, Autif?
I just typed it.
Thank you.
Yashasvi, you can move on in the meanwhile.
Okay. Thank you once again, Mr. Autif.
Thank you. Bye.